Hello, everyone. Welcome to Caliper Counseling, solely an F1 podcast, bringing you race reviews. This is a broadcasted therapy podcast. My name is Michael.
And I'm Andy.
And fuck, what do I say? The fuck.
And let's
what
get
do I
into
say?
the race.
There's the intro.
Just throw it at the wall.
Today we're talking about the first race, the Bahrain F1 GP. I don't know the full name of it.
Nor do I.
I think it's a crypto.
Formula One, Aramco. No, that's preseason testing. Formula One, testing. Gulf Air, Bahrain Grand Prix 2023.
Perfect. So yeah, the first race of the season happened. Do we want to talk about results right away, or do we want to?
I think we talk about how excited we are for F1 to be back. It was a long winter.
Big time.
I mean, the winter was a bit uncertain. We didn't know exactly where the teams were going to come out in preseason testing. It was even a bit uncertain. Like we knew Aston was fast.
I think even now we're still pretty uncertain.
I don't know. As a McLaren fan, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a long season for me.
Yeah,
so for both of us.
Yeah.
I'm just going to turn my mic down a little bit. I'm a little hot on my end. But no, I'm thrilled to have F1 back. I think the one thing that everyone thought was going to happen did happen, and that's Red Bull domination.
Oh, big time! Did you? I'm shocked at one point. Verstappen was 20 seconds on. Was it Sainz at one point or not? Yeah, Sainz at one point.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised.
I was.
Yeah,
I thought that the
Ferraris.
I thought at least the Ferraris were holding back some performance. If I'm going to be honest,
yeah,
I didn't think it was going to be that. I didn't think they were. I did think the Red Bull would be dominant. I didn't think they would be that dominant.
I think it mostly was wishful thinking on your part, but I was hoping Ferrari was going to be close, but I didn't think coming into the weekend, especially after preseason testing, I didn't think there was much of a question of Red Bull was going to be dominant. I mean, it's tough for the teams. We had a little bit of regulation change over the winter break, but really the cars are very similar to last year, and Red Bull's coming off of an incredibly strong platform. So I'm not too surprised that they're still out front.
Everyone, your 2023-2024 F1 World Drivers Champion, Max Verstappen.
My prediction was right. I know. I'm a genius. No one could have seen this coming.
I was thinking about this while watching the race. You almost don't want to be a Red Bull sponsor.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
Because they just never get shown anymore. You almost want to be like a Aston Martin and Ferrari and Mercedes sponsor.
100%. I remember back when Vettel was winning all the races, that was exactly what they said was, I remember vividly we're watching the Singapore Grand Prix back in 2014, I want to say. And Vettel was so far out front that they showed him maybe a half dozen times during the race, but the cars that were getting shown were the Williams and all the teams fighting in the mid pack, fighting for the last podium position. But I mean, in the end, they're the ones that are winning, so they can associate with the winning team. So I think they'll take it.
Yeah, I think so. So
go ahead.
I don't know what's up. Do you have a list of you're saying that you have a bunch of points you want to talk about?
I came prepared, ladies and gentlemen.
But do you have a list of order of operations that you want to?
I don't have a list
What
of
is
order of
what
operations.
is your bed mass of podcast topics right now?
Well, I'm thinking first I want to talk about Ferrari, because coming into it, as we had just said, Ferrari was kind of our hopes for bringing down Red Bull, and they were a little quiet in the offseason they didn't say they were super strong. They didn't say that they were going to be lacking, but clearly, even though our boy, what's his name, Fred Vasseur is now in charge.
Ferrari.
It's
no more Mattia Binotto.
No, I think we're now learning that it's not just as simple as changing your guy in power
Well,
and having a different
I'd
outcome. The
say
team is struggling.
I I'd say to that statement yes and no, because for I'm going to use the Leafs as an analogy because
Yes, use a
there's
very
something.
niche North American sport for this global sport
Well,
podcast.
for anyone who doesn't know the Leafs, the general manager is um, Kyle Dubas, and there was something that I read that this year you're finally seeing Kyle Dubas's team. Mind you, Dubas has been the GM now for 5 years.
Yeah, I believe this is either his fifth or he's going into his fifth season. But he's been with the team for longer, but he's been in control for about 5 years now.
Yeah. So the connection I was going to make to Ferrari is that Fred Vasseur has the team and has the leadership of Ferrari, but it's not really his team yet,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it's the foundation and everything for the car right now is still Binotto's team.
Yeah, you can't expect a guy to come in and overhaul
Mm-hmm.
a team in one off season. It will take time.
Even development that's kind of already been started,
Mm-hmm.
he has no control over because Binotto made the decisions. If the money's already in play and already in motion, as it seemed like it was near the end of last year,
Mm-hmm.
onto this year's car, you don't want to stop those. Just from an operation standpoint, you don't want to stop those. The money being poured into a different, like aerodynamic, like small aerodynamic improvements, right?
For sure, and I think what you're getting at is, I can't really pinpoint the exact point in last season where they would have given up on the 2023 or 2022 drivers title and constructors title, but there will have been a point where they realized this isn't our year. We're best if we start investing in next year and start investing in R&D that's going to help us in 2023. So to your point, Mattia Binotto will have been going off of what the old heads of state would have wanted to invest in last year. So
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, the one positive to take from this is, in theory, there's no way but up for Ferrari. Like they had a car DNF and Carlos. Okay,
well, there's
always you can always get worse.
There's always, yeah.
You can always get worse, but in a sense, you have one car that's DNF'd and your other car was passed by what used to be a midfield team. And we'll get into Aston, and I know that they're no longer a midfield team. But pretty bad day at the office for Ferrari in Bahrain. But I think it's about where they go from here. If they're going to progress, if like we saw last year, Ferrari came out of the blocks nice and hot. They had a good start to the season. They won some races. They were on the podium consistently, but then they fell off. I think the Fred Vasseur's not career, but the way people think of him in this position, the way people think of him as a team principal, will be from the way they respond from here. If they progress and get close to the Red Bull throughout the season, that'll obviously be a success, and they'll lend a hand to keeping him on in future. But we just have to see progression. And we'll get into Aston Martin soon, but I think it's really got to be Ferrari needs to cement their place as second place. And then from there, it's about closing the gap. In a sense, people might say it's a losing mentality to worry about what's behind you, but they need to make sure they're faster than Aston and then worry about closing the gap to Red Bull. It's obvious to everyone Red Bull's the standard right now, but Ferrari, I mean, this might be a little premature, but this might not be Ferrari's year.
It might not be.
You got to work on getting the points when you can. Don't worry about Red Bull.
Yeah.
Focus on where you are. Ferrari's had a tough go of it. It looked like they had a good car like 3 years ago. It looked like they had a good car last year. You need to find a way, and we'll get into this with McLaren as well. You need to find a way to ensure you stay where you are and then look to go forward, you know? Yeah. And like you got Sainz and Leclerc in the car. Leclerc looks perfectly at home in that thing. Sainz, unlike my season prediction, it looks like he might be struggling a little bit. But,
Hmm.
it's, yeah, Ferrari needs to be a competitive team for F1's success. Like, I don't want to see
Yep.
Ferrari die. I don't want to see them struggle in F1. It's been a shame to see what's happened to Williams, and I'm terrified that's going to happen to Ferrari.
I think they leave F1 before that happens to them.
Oh, dude, they're never leaving F1. They'll
I think
stop
so.
making, well, maybe not now that it's a proper company and there's shareholders to worry about, but I don't see
Yeah.
Ferrari leaving F1 anytime soon.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
Dude, that's like they built cars to fund their F1 campaign. That was their whole thing originally.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's fair.
Do you remember, or you won't remember, but have you heard the Enzo Ferrari
Oh,
thing
I
about
was there. I remember.
aerodynamics?
Oh yeah, it was something like you
Aerodynamics are
don't
for
need
people who
aerodynamics.
can't build engines.
Yeah. Well, Ferrari can't build engines either, so
Yeah.
or last or 2 years ago they showed that
Jesus.
they couldn't build engines.
So yeah, Ferrari, come on, guys, make this interesting, please.
Get it
Please,
together.
I'm not a Red Bull fan. I'm not a Verstappen fan. Please make this interesting.
Oh, big time.
Shall we get on to the team that might actually make this interesting?
Yes, the team that I was when I saw Alonso pushing Russell,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm excited for this. I very much am. I wanted to see him. I want to see him win. I think my prediction is going to come true though. I think he's going to win at least one race.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I mean, after this race and after Red Bull's domination, we saw a lot of people saying, "That's it. Title's over. Red Bull's
Yep.
going to win all the races this year."
Yep.
We've never seen a team clean sweep a full season. McLaren came close back in.
I thought that Red Bull. With Vettel.
No, because I'm trying to think who else was strong in that era. Like, but there was always a race that they had a bad day. Like there was, I don't remember what year it was, and it might not have been Red Bull's most dominant year, but there was a year where Weber and Vettel both crashed out, or they crashed and one DNF'd and the other lost time and had to go to the pits. But there's never been a team that's clean swept the whole season, and I don't think this is going to be the year. There's always going to be
No.
reliability. There's always going to be other issues. Like we saw with Max, he had an issue with his rear axles locking. All it takes is one little glitch to go wrong. And Red Bull might still have the best consistency and reliability of the whole field, but there's always going to be an off day. So when that happens, I think as it stands, Aston looks like it's going to be the favorite to pick up those
I'm excited
points.
for that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was shocked. I was more shocked with Stroll than I was with Alonso.
In a
Primarily
positive way
because
or a bad way?
in a positive way,
Mm-hmm.
solely based on the fact that he's driving with a broken hand.
Yeah.
I think a broken toe.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know if it's still considered broken, but like he broke it recently, and yeah, he has a busted toe as well. So, yeah, I was really worried about it at first, but especially when he got close
I
to
saw
Alonso.
photos of him. I saw photos of him needing help getting out of the car.
Yeah, I saw the ones where he's like on his forearms. He's trying to use his arms to get out. Like, I'm a little surprised. I mean, I know he'll be doing that when it's comfortable. If his car was on fire, he would say, "Fuck the broken hand" and bleep that in post. He'd be getting out like.
I'm not bleeping that. I don't bleep that.
He'd be getting
Fuck
out with
that
his
shit.
hands, but yeah, it's a little worrying to see him in the car when he's taking his hand off the wheel sometimes. Like when he crashed into Alonso, you saw him on the onboards, he pulled his hand off the wheel to try to protect it from the impact.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was necessarily the safest call to put him in the seat this weekend, but you can't deny he performed. What was he, sixth? Yeah, he finished sixth. So great.
It would have been nice. I saw rumors of I think Dragovich got the go ahead if Stroll wasn't going to be able to.
I don't think he could have done that. What Stroll did.
But I saw rumors that Vettel was going to be in the car. I saw rumors of that. That apparently he was in contact with Aston.
I think he's out. I think he's. I hope to see him at a race or two this year. I hope to see him still involved with the F1 community, but he doesn't strike me as the type that's going to go the Nico Rosberg path of being the
Oh no, not at all.
fifth or fourth commentator on the broadcasts.
Yeah, I saw things of him being like, um, or links to him being a principal at some point in the future.
Maybe,
Possibility.
maybe.
I would have loved to see him in that car.
I don't know him personally, but I
Don't? Oh, I do.
Oh yeah, he told you he's going to come back.
Yeah, he
gonna
told
be
me. He told me.
Red Bull. He's going to go back to Red Bull, be their team principal.
Yeah, yeah. Right after Christian Horner's done, it's Sebastian Vettel.
Bye bye, Daddy Horner.
Oh yeah. Bye. I haven't seen Drive to Survive the newest season yet.
No, nor have I. We should do a review on it though. Everyone, let us know.
Watch along.
We could do a watch along. Yeah, that'd be a great idea. I'll have you over.
Yeah.
Get some snacks.
And then we can shoot it after every episode, and then we can put them all. What if we had like a full, Andy? What if we had a slumber
We could
party?
live stream it.
I don't think anyone would watch it.
That's fair.
But Andy, we can have a slumber party.
Let's do it.
We can, and then after every episode, we pull out the mics.
We sit on the couch in our sleeping bags with a cup of cocoa, and we review Drive to Survive. We do a binge of it. We do it over a weekend.
Yes.
Done.
And then after every episode, we get on the mics, and then I'll just splice them all together into one episode.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I'll make a voiceover in between all of them. Andy and I are now cuddled up watching episode 3.
Next weekend, let's do it.
I have footage of him caressing my hair. We got pretty intimate.
Oops. Yeah, I'd be so down to do that. That'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be fun. That'd be really fun.
Let's find a time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get back to Bahrain.
Yeah. So Alonso.
Oh man,
a masterclass.
Oh, that's it. I'm so happy he's finally made the right drive decision. He's finally made the right team decision.
He made a good career move once in his life.
Poor guy. He went to Ferrari, and then he went to McLaren, and then he took time off, and then he came back, and he went to Renault, and then he went to. He's just been all over the place, and finally, after picking I think it's three bad teams, 3 poor decisions where the team either was good and then wasn't, or the team promised to be good like Renault and then just wasn't. He's finally in a car that seems like it's going to give him a chance to compete. And when I was a kid, this is how I got into F1. I got a slot car set, and the first slot car I got was a Renault Team Spirit blue and yellow Fernando Alonso race car. And I would shoot that thing all around the track. It would go flying, it would impale itself in the drywall. My mom would be screaming at me. And I love Fernando. And I've wanted to see him compete ever since. And holy cow, we might get that this year.
Oh, yeah.
You as excited as I am.
I am excited for that. I'm excited for next race to see. I hope that their qualifying pace, or not qualifying pace, their 1 lap pace from all of practice sessions is translatable. Like that this might have just been a poor qualifying, and because it was a poor qualifying, it put them in the middle of the pack with like how Stroll ran into the back of Alonso, which I wouldn't say it was all fault of Stroll, because it did look like Alonso cut the apex like quite soon. It's just lucky that Stroll didn't clip anything of value. It looks like he only just tapped Alonso's tires.
Yeah, I agree.
The sidewall.
It was more 70-30 Stroll's fault, I would say. But yeah, Alonso cut across the line, not knowing that Stroll was going to try to feed it up there. But when beginning of the race, like I understand. I'm saying this with full acknowledgement that Stroll missed a lot of preseason testing. He's coming in pretty not warm, pretty fresh. Yeah. And I think it was just this little mistake that thankfully didn't cost either of them much time at all.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
it
think
was a
you're gonna
miracle.
see. I think you're gonna see next race. They're going to, at the very least, be fighting Ferrari more.
Yeah,
I
hopefully,
think. I think this.
hopefully.
I think this race might have just been a. Although they podiumed and they were able to scratch back a good amount of points.
Hmm.
I think this might have been one of their bad races.
Bold.
I know.
Yeah, I think you're on to something with the one lap pace being lacking. I mean, it's better for you to have a slower outright paced car in qualifying and a better race paced car in the race. That's where the majority of points are. We'll see sprint qualifying will
Yeah.
be a bit different, but you still need the race pace. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think if they can figure out that first single lap qualifying pace, we might even see them jump ahead of Ferrari and it might be Ferrari chasing Aston like we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
I mean, honestly, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if by race 3, Ferrari is more so fighting with Mercedes than the other way around. I mean,
Yeah.
Leclerc did look hot, though. I think it's just going to be a matter of minimizing their failures, both strategy-wise and car-wise. They need to make sure the reliability is okay. But, I
Yep.
mean, they left Sainz out to dry on dead tires. Like
Yeah.
that's the biggest worry for me with Ferrari is it looks like that car is really hard on their tires.
Yeah. And but there was one point where they're saying that Leclerc wasn't degrading his hards all too much, but Science was.
Sainz was, and like he was pushing to keep Alonso behind him, but
Yeah.
if Alonso's catching up to him, either their car has better pace or it's
Mhm.
kinder on its tires. So relatively here, it might be the Ferrari might be third best out of the pack. But if
Yeah.
Alonso and Aston are better on their tires, then that's going to be an issue for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, Christ, if Ferrari haven't figured out the reliability problems, they've already. It was an electrical part, right? The battery storage that they had to replace.
They
And they
already
get two of
replaced
them.
it.
So maybe they can fix I don't know exactly how the rules work. I know they can use the original part again, but I don't know if they're going to be able to fix it or if it was just a connection issue or what the thing was there. But if they're already getting into penalties with parts and their cars keep blowing up, it's going to be testy. Again, we're reading a lot
It's
into
only the
a
first race of the
single
season. Come
race,
on,
but
Andy.
we've
It's only the
just
first race of the season.
we've just seen this story too many times with Ferrari, right?
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
um, yeah. As far as Aston goes, look really strong. I hope they keep this up, and I hope that they're able to minimize the gap to Red Bull, make it an interesting title fight. And I hope the same for
Mhm.
Ferrari. In the end, I'm a McLaren fan and an
Yeah.
Alonso fan, but all I want is for it to be a competitive title fight. So
Yep.
that's what we're all rooting for here. Now,
No, I agree with you.
Mike, before we get into some depressing topics, do you want to talk
Oh,
about a relatively fun topic? Or at least funny
yes.
for us not having any skin in the game.
Yes.
What did you make of Mr. Esteban Ocon's weekend?
I found that so funny. I found it so funny. There was the first penalty, and then as he was pulling in, the second penalty happened because of his
They didn't serve it
engineers.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I forget how it got even more. I
The
forget.
speeding in the pit lane.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
I
I don't know what was the
feel
total
terrible
amount
for
of.
him. It was
I
3
don't.
penalties. I think the total time it was 5, 10, and then 15 or maybe longer on the. I
Yeah.
don't know what the speeding in the pit lane was. But the one thing that I was kind of looking at and it caught me a bit off guard was the time penalty. He came in to serve that time penalty and they serviced the car in
Yeah.
pit and everything. And he went back out and they declared that he didn't serve it right. So they gave him a 10-second time penalty. Originally, it was a 5-second time penalty. Now, I get the fact that you need to enforce the way that people are serving penalties. But if you didn't serve the time penalty correctly, shouldn't it, you just have to do the 5 seconds again? I know I'm getting a little nitpicky here, but he went from a 5-second penalty for being out of his grid slot, came in to serve the penalty, went back out, didn't serve it right, and then he got a 10-second penalty for that. Should it not be 5-10? Like, should it not be 5-5? Like, he has to do it again?
I think so, because if he didn't come into the pits at all, it would just be tacked on to the end of his time.
Right. Oh, you know what? You raise a good point though, that if there was just another 5-second time penalty, the rule is you have to serve it next time you're in the pits. You have to come in and serve it. So I guess if people didn't serve their penalties right, they could pick and choose at what point in the race they want to serve that time penalty. So I guess it makes sense that if they come into the pits and they have a 5-second penalty and don't serve it, then okay. Yeah. I rescind my complaint. But yeah,
I'm glad I could steer you in the right way.
Sorry?
I'm glad I could steer you in the right way.
F1 steer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then so I found it funny. I it sucks. I found it funny though, because it's like you just see every penalty Esteban Ocon, penalty Esteban Ocon. Like it was kind of funny.
Yeah, the poor guy.
And then, what's the depressing topics though?
Well, I was hoping we could mull a bit on poor Esty for longer, but I guess I'm just delaying the inevitable, eh?
Mm-hmm. You are.
What a terrible race for McLaren.
Yep. I will say that I will say it was terrible, but it wasn't all bad. Because Piastri showed that he has pace.
Yeah, I don't. So my preseason prediction was that we were going to be even more impressed by Lando this year because Oscar.
Which I think we were.
Oh yeah, but that's what I'm getting at. Is Oscar is a top-notch driver, rookie. Like he's new to F1. It's going to take some time for him to learn, but he didn't look anywhere near Lando during the race. He was 5 or 6 stops back of him, and before he had the steering wheel issues, like Norris, I think was about half a second or like 0.4 a lap faster than Piastri was. So, I mean, if Lando didn't have the issues and Piastri kept going the whole race, it's. I mean, I hope he can pick it up, but Lando was quite a ways in front, and I mean, credit to Lando, he gained like 2 or 3 spots off the start, and then you could tell the race pace just wasn't there, and they started falling back. I don't know how much of that was their reliability issues, but they looked relatively quick. But Piastri, not quick. They didn't look quick. They were in a good position, but yeah, Piastri just wasn't able to keep up with Lando. I hope
there was one thing that I saw a battle between Lando and Ocon recently. Or not recently, but in the race, and then both of them had their issues.
Lando, it's almost like they had the same race because they both had to keep coming into the pits.
Exactly.
Man,
I was thinking that too.
I mean, this is dire straits for both of our top teams in McLaren. I mean, I saw a few people talking about, is this going to be Lando's last year at McLaren?
He has 3 more years left on his contract.
You can buy out contracts. You can force.
What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, if Lando was able to get another offer elsewhere, I mean, you can always wiggle your way out of it. Like Lando could forfeit. Like he could be willing to sign off the contract, and McLaren would be able to be willing to terminate it and then not pay him. You know what I mean? Like they could both mutually terminate the contract. McLaren would probably be in McLaren's best interest to keep him, but I mean, like look at Danny, right? McLaren wanted him out. He didn't necessarily want to be out, but they paid him off to get him out of the car. Maybe it'll work the other way. It's
who do you think would offer him a seat?
I mean, any team that has a potential out, like any team that has a driver they're not happy with.
Checo is contract is up at the end of the year.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true. I mean,
Lando.
I think it's going to be a bit of what happened at McLaren, or a bit of what happened at Mercedes a couple of years ago with Hamilton and then George Russell coming up. Like they knew Bottas and Hamilton were able to work together. It was testy at times, but for the most part, Bottas was able to keep up with Hamilton, get good constructors points, but not push him too much and not unsettle him too much. It was more of a wingman type thing. So I wonder if Red Bull would be willing to potentially bring in a driver that's going to push Max and maybe cause some controversies about who's number one and all that stuff. To me, and this would lead into what you were saying about Lando still having a few years left on his contract. Do we see Lewis race for another couple, 2 or 3 years, retire, and then we see Lando go to Mercedes?
I think Schumacher has that spot.
He's not in F1, buddy. He's not going to get
He's a
dropped.
reserve driver.
Yeah, but he couldn't drive a Haas last year, man. They're not going to drop him into a Mercedes.
I don't know. I didn't think he was doing horrible on that.
I didn't think he was doing. I don't think he was too bad at Haas either. Haas just, in my opinion, realized they needed consistent drivers right now rather than young talents that would be good in the future.
Yeah.
They need to design a successful car, and they just couldn't do that without the consistency of their drivers.
So you think that he takes the Mercedes?
I think if McLaren doesn't improve, and if they keep putting in performances like this with poor reliability and poor race pace, I could see a situation where we're talking about where Lando's going at the end of the year or at the end of next year. And we also have so many rookies in F1 this year that some might not work out. Some might go want to race in the US, vice versa. I don't know, man. I just would hate to see a driver like Lando Norris never have a competitive car.
Yeah.
And I love McLaren, but I would rather see Lando go somewhere else and have success than just squander a great career at McLaren.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it would be nice to see him in a competitive car. What if, on the flip side, what if Aston continues to have a strong car? Alonso's not going to be in that car forever.
No, that's true. But I think if Alonso is, say he finishes 4th or 5th this year and the Aston is clearly the 3rd best car, and their trajectory has been going up and they're going to get better, I don't think Alonso's going anywhere next year.
I think he stays.
I think he stays next year, and he could even push himself to stay the year after. I mean, it's all up to how much he loves it. I mean, there's no sign of him slowing down. There's no sign of him losing interest in F1. He's still doing it now.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any sign of him not being interested. It's a question of if he can keep the body healthy enough to stay in F1. And I don't know, man. He proved this weekend that he still got it. So I mean, as long as he can pump in performances like that, he's going to be here. And obviously, they're not getting rid of Stroll.
Oh yeah, no, they're not. They're not getting rid of Stroll whatsoever.
Alonso is quite complimentary of Stroll, eh? What'd you think about that?
Yeah.
Do you think there's a little fine print in the contract?
I do think that Stroll is. I think he gets too much hate.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think
Biased
he's. I think
Canadian
he's
fans.
Exactly. I think he deserves more praise than, but of course you're gonna have a million different people being like, no.
Yeah.
Dad bought the team. You don't deserve
there's no doubt that if, I'll say it this way, there's no doubt in my mind that if Lawrence Stroll didn't start investing in F1, his son would not be in F1 today. However, especially his first season was full of incidents and controversy, but he did pump in good races.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Lawrence didn't buy a team or if Lawrence didn't invest in F1, Lance wouldn't be here necessarily. But I think because his dad was able to invest and give him the comfort of knowing he would have a seat and knowing he's learned, right? He's won a race for Christ's sakes. You don't win races.
I don't think Stroll's won a race.
Yeah, he won. He won in what's it?
You got a pole. You got a pole position. I don't think Stroll's Stroll's won a race.
Didn't he win in? Oh no, I'm totally wrong. You're right. He did get pole.
Yeah, he didn't.
He got
He only
pole.
got a pole so far.
That was in
Last year.
Azerbaijan.
2 years ago.
Yeah, my bad. He got pole. I just remember I missed the session. I looked at my phone and I was like, holy shucks.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, my point still stands that he edit that out, otherwise people won't think that we're credible. Yeah, I think the years he was in F1, he might not have stayed if he didn't have some sort of backing, but it's given him a chance to learn how to be in F1, learn how to drive, learn how to pick his battles, and not be necessarily a hothead all the time and force bad situations. But yeah, totally agree with you, man. He gets a lot of hate for being a paid driver in a sense, but he's performed.
Still has a skill. Technically, Norris is a paid driver.
Who pays for him?
His family.
Oh yeah. Do
His
they have a
family's
sponsor
pretty
on the
rich.
car?
I don't know what sponsors they have, but they paid for him to just basically be in F1 if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean all drivers. I mean the history is built on paid drivers. Even the beginning, Fangio I think was a paid driver. It's you can't avoid it. It's what makes the sport work, and thankfully the paid drivers that we're talking about here, Stroll and Lando, there's no arguing their place in F1 anymore. Like Lando especially, he's been great ever since he joined, and Stroll with last year and this year, and honestly every year he's been in F1, there's been promise, and he's shown that he belongs. So
I agree with you. On to, I don't know if this was on your list, but I'm happy with Sargent and Albon.
Brilliant weekend for Williams. They're my second favorite team, and I am thrilled. They had a brilliant weekend,
fighting for some points.
Yeah, and Sargent was close to Albon. Albon's been known to squeeze the best out of that car, and Sargent was right on his back.
Oh yeah. Oh, they had a great weekend.
Really good weekend.
Sorry, continue.
I was just gonna say I hope they keep it up, because that was another one of my projections. Is that they are
you're going pretty good for your predictions right now. What else is on your list of
we've exhausted it. I wanted to talk about Red Bull being out front, Ferrari struggles, Aston being great. Maybe we should say a little bit of something on Mercedes.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking about this as well.
Right,
if you're Mercedes, you're livid.
With whom?
Livid
Just
right
the
now.
outcome?
Yourself.
Okay.
You have a car that has your engine. I see
what you're saying.
Uses I saw this online. You have a car that's your engine, uses your tunnel, your wind tunnel, uses so many of your and you have I think they have an intellectual property agreement with them for certain areas, and they're able to make a faster car than you.
Yeah, I mean, it's as Checo joked with during the post-race interviews with the drivers. They were saying it's nice to see 3 Red Bull cars on the podium, saying that the Aston Martin has copied the Red Bull's design philosophy. Is this the final nail in the coffin for Mercedes' design philosophy that they've hung on to from last year into this year? Is this going to be them saying, okay, we have our numbers wrong? They still say that the platform that they're building has more potential
than the Red Bull car.
But yeah, that's what they're still saying. I mean, that's what they were saying during the weekend. I don't know if they'll change their tone now that they've finished where they did. But it's, you can't really, potential is not going to, if potential doesn't translate into wins, into competitiveness, then there's no potential. So do you think we're going to see Mercedes switch course and maybe try to design their car more similar to the Red Bulls?
I think so. I think when you have, now that you basically have a test subject now.
Mm-hmm.
You know that you're effectively now running four or two different cars.
Yeah,
Because you
I
have
mean, you can
two
see the Aston. Yeah.
is completely different from aside from, you know, engine and some parts.
The
It's
engine's the
you're
exact same.
seeing.
It's the aero
I
parts
know
and the.
that's what I mean. That's
Oh,
what I
I
mean.
see.
Like
Sorry.
aside from the engine and some few small parts,
Mm-hmm.
have effectively two sample sizes of, oh, this is our philosophy and this is effectively Red Bull philosophy. Who you want to be fighting with?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just up to Mercedes if they can out Red Bull. Red Bull, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
they clearly can't out design Red Bull in their own philosophy. So, are you gonna try? The only concern there is going to be if they do change their design philosophy, they run the risk of not getting it right. Well, there's no chance they're going to get it right immediately,
mhm.
but are they going to run the risk of stop developing this car, race it for the next half season, and then bring in an updated car the second half of the season, and run the risk of that not being right? Because
Yeah,
in the interim, if you change course now, you stop improving this car, you're going to lose ground to the people behind you and in front of you. You're just going to slow down as the other teams progress. And then when you bring your next car out, it might not be right and you might drop even further back. So is this a problem that they're going to kick in the next year? Are they just going to mail this year in? Are they going to try to keep going? It's going to be one of the largest cost benefit analyses of 2023 is going to be Mercedes' decision on where they want to go from here.
yeah.
But I mean, at least they're up there, right? They got a good chunk of points with Ferrari dropping out, but it looks like they are handily the fourth best team right now.
Mm-hmm. So then, Andy, out of 10 for our final send off, what do you rate this race?
The beginning was actually quite good. There were some interesting points. There was never really any question of who was going to win the race, so that always knocks it down a bit. But it was entertaining. I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. Can we do half grades?
Yeah, you can do half
Okay,
grades.
I'll give it a 6.5.
I was gonna say 7.
Close to
I
7.
found,
It just fell off at the end for me.
yeah, I thought the beginning was good. I thought, like you said, the thing that takes points off is that you knew that Verstappen was gonna win within the first 5 laps because he was just pulling away from Leclerc. I think the things that gave it some stuff was Alonso really pushing both Russell and Hamilton halfway through the race, and then at the end, I think what kind of solidified it as a 7 is at the end you started seeing murmurs of Hamilton trying to pick off Sainz.
Yeah.
Near the end of it, which kind of kept you a little bit entertained, but
Mm-hmm.
overall, I would say 6, but 7 because it's the first race of the year and we're racing.
Yeah, and
So
generally the first race is always a bit of a toss-up. Like it's
yeah,
the interesting part of the race is where people are going to be, but
I'll give it a benefit of the doubt because this is also the track that they did preseason testing on.
yeah, that's true. They have a lot of information about the track.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first race generally, the interesting part is where people slot in, and then there's not a ton of racing between them because this happens with every rule change as seasons go on. The more the rules stay the same, the more people are familiar with the rules, the better the racing gets because the cars just start copying design techniques and the cars get more similar. So hopefully as the season goes on, we'll see some more tight racing. But yeah, I agree with you. It's always hard to have a intense, exciting first race, but it was entertaining nonetheless. And F1's back, baby.
F1's back.
Yeah.
Thank you all for watching.
Make sure you follow along with us.
Yep.
And Mike's going to bed.